All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 253 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm not Owen, so fuck off. Stop paging me. I'm your host, Julian Gill, admin on the FAQ message board. I'm running on 2.5 hours of sleep and a cup of tea. So if it's a train wreck, it's all Andrew's fault.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's always Andrew's fault.
Always my fault.
Welcome back. Obviously, Andrew, Alive Catman on the message board, known worldwide. And loves worldwide and appreciated. St. Louis Kiss, Lonnie.
What's up?
And of course, 69th Blizzard Ken. Thank you all
Hello.
for joining me for another episode of this stunningly produced podcast. It certainly doesn't meet the production quality of Kiss at Midnight. So that came out. You let that out early. So
Yeah.
how's the response been? Because
Response has been 90, as usual. Response has been 98% positive, and I really can't thank everyone enough who watched it, shared it, sent me a message about it. Was just jazzed about it. I mean, there was a point after I put it out on Tuesday where I was like, I did like 2 little scrolls through Facebook like this. I was like 1, 2, and every post I had seen were people sharing Kiss at Midnight. So it was awesome. The response has been absolutely awesome. And the reason why I let it out early is because I couldn't wait any longer. When I did Greatest Show on Earth, I didn't really set a release date for it. I just kind of sneakily put it out there. But this one, I approached it differently. I actually promoted it on all these great shows, and I had a release date. But as it was getting closer, I'm like, man, I want people to see this. It's time. It's time. So I let it out, and everyone loved it.
yeah, so which of the podcasts are you on this week? I think Podcast Rock City popped up in my feed yesterday.
That was the last one. So I've done them all. I've done most of them. I've done the Podcast Rock City, the live show, their podcast. I've done Ages of Rock. I think Decibel Geek is the last one I got to hit. I've done yours, Podcast. I mean, just basically just hitting and doing my my little media junket from this seat right here.
Yeah, ours doesn't really count because we're making you talk about other shit than yourself as well.
Well, but I like that. I want to do that.
Yeah,
I get accused of being smug all the time.
Well, nothing wrong with that. I've been called a pompous ass. I don't know where that comes from, but
Me neither. Just a regular ass is fine.
just
Just
complete
regular
and total ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, guys.
That's what my wife says. Quit half-assing that. I'm like, well, I'm using my whole ass. What are
Yeah,
you
whole ass, never half ass. It's always whole ass.
So I'm going to want to ask you a couple questions that kind of
yeah.
cropped up on the message board and on YouTube and elsewhere. Some of the questions some fans have been asking, just because I think it's pertinent for you to be able to explain yourself and some of the things that they were asking. One of the ones I think we covered this actually was the split screen was in the original. Video.
So night 1, Copel Hall, January 25th, 1976. They had this split screen thing going on for like part of the show. And one of the very first edits, and you might have seen this one, Julian, I edited around that. And I didn't have any of the split screen stuff in there because initially I didn't like it. So there came a point where like there were a lot of really fast cuts, and I was like, well, how can I fix this fast cut? So I decided I was going to just include some of this split screen stuff from night 1. So no, that is not a creation of mine. That is how it appears on night 1, and I just decided to pepper it out through the feature.
Yeah, and Lonnie and Ken. Ken, go for it. Ask it.
I'm just
say something.
I was just saying. I noticed that right away in a couple of spots, and I said, oh, Andrew did some split screens. I thought you did it, and because I don't recall ever seeing the split screen, or I don't remember.
That's
it
the
or,
great thing
or
about
whatever.
this feature, because it breathes new life on these 3 shows. I know I only did 5 songs, but it breathes new life. We've seen this show so many times, and now to see it presented in such a way that gives you a different feeling, it's people have said it's awesome. So that's what it's about. It's about taking something and spit shining it, making it fresh, and creating a new experience.
Yeah, I paid more attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, with the I did see one of the criticisms that I noted on there was people saying we've all seen this footage before. And I was like, well, yeah, but it is being, as you said, resequenced, re-envisaged, cleaned up, harmonized. So you're seeing what you've seen before, but you're seeing it in a whole new way. So I thought it brought something to it, because the split screen was a good thing that quite a few people have commented on and don't remember seeing it. And how long have we had those videos in circulation?
Since 1987.
So quite a long time. One of the other ones was, I thought you were going to basically do what you did with the Greatest Show on Earth with Alive.
Well, that's the thing.
So
with Greatest Show on Earth, it got blocked on YouTube because I was using the Alive 2 audio. That was one of the things that I got, was under a lot of, flack for. Roberta, again. No,
yes.
But I didn't want to do that here because I wanted to be able to share this a little bit more freely. I mean, I know this footage still belongs to Kiss, but it doesn't. Universal didn't slap me with a bunch of copyright right off the bat. So I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to just do Greatest Show on Earth light, because Greatest Show on Earth does tell the entire history of the band up until that point. I didn't want to do the same thing. And not for nothing, you listen to those Cobo Hall shows, it sounds different than they sounded on Alive. There's a lot of studio trickery done, just as Houston sounds a lot different than Kiss Alive 2. So I just watched those 3 shows and I just determined that night 2 sounded the best, and that was where I was going to start and what I was going to use.
Nice. And then I guess, what was the final one? I was trying to think of, what the hell.
When's the next one? I've gotten that already too.
When's the next one?
When's the next? Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the subtle differences. I mean, Kiss fans love just little minutia, exactly,
We do.
and just we collect different things. Oh well, this one says this on the back, or this one doesn't. Everybody has like their variations. Everybody loves variations. I mean, how many copies of Alive did Julian have at one point? Kiss fans love variations. So
he had
to see these little subtle differences in Kiss at Midnight, like Ken said, it made you pay attention closer and made it a whole lot more fun to watch than just watching the concert DVD.
Yeah, that's what it's about. The band is not putting out this stuff. There is apparently there is a demand for it because people love it. I mean, it hasn't even been up for 48 hours and has over 5,000 views. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's definitely, it's been knocked out of the park as far as I'm concerned. So, we're filling in the gaps where the band hasn't done it. Did Julian freeze, or is he just he's still there?
I'm just not
He's just
moving.
soaking it all in.
I am listening. There's been some good constructive criticism, feedback, for want of a different term in there. One of the other questions that I did see is, why is it so short?
Well, because there wasn't, when the interview that I used for this, it was called 13 Biographies, and Alison Steele did this on Kiss. There were other bands that were done, the Eagles, Led Zeppelin, everything like that. So the usable part of the feature was about like 9 or 10 minutes. I mean, the show was 60 minutes, but she played songs in there. She talked over some songs. So there was like some stuff I couldn't use because she was talking over the studio version of Black Diamond, or she was talking over this, or she was talking about history after 1976, where I wanted to set this feature. So once I listened to this 13 Biographies frontwards and backwards and found out what I wanted to use, there wasn't enough content to stretch it to 45 minutes or even to an hour. Because then, here's the thing, like, there's only certain songs available from Cobo Hall Night across those 3 videos, Extreme Close-Up, Kiss My Ass, Kiss Confidential. I didn't want to use any of the time-coded footage like I did on Greatest Show on Earth, so I wanted to keep it all to officially released footage. And, I determined that I don't have enough to stretch this to 45 minutes or an hour. And if I did, I was going to be adding a lot of just garbage. I took the absolute best stuff, and that's what you see. So, and you made a comment too, Julian. Casablanca would have never have paid for a 60-minute, little special at the time. 30-minute special is exactly where it needed to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think my comment was Casablanca would have never paid. Period. They would have had to be sued, like with the Bell Sound threats of legal action to get that bill paid. But you know what?
Yeah.
It was good. I've had a real blast watching people enjoy it, because it's just fun to see people take it for what it was, trying to set it in the era with the Treachers commercial with David Cassidy. There's a lot of fun stuff in there, and Alison Steele's got a great voice, and
She does. She does it. This is a tribute to her.
She was a rock star, of
she was
the music press and journalism. She really, really was important to history as well.
If she was still alive, I would find a way to get to have her see this, because I think she would have gotten a kick out of it. She loved this music, and she was a pioneer in a male-dominated world. Now more than ever, we need strong female role models, because she did it better than most of her contemporaries. And it's a shame that not more people know about her, or not more people talk about her. There's very few shows still available where you can go and listen to her. I mean, she would play entire sides of records. She would read poems over instrumental music. I mean, it was cool stuff. She was giving you different things. I would have loved to have seen her gone head to head with Eddie Trunk. I mean, that would have been great to see, because she had a passion, she had a knowledge for this music. It wasn't just her going, "Oh, well, what's your favorite place to play?" She, coined them as calling them Thunder Rock, and I mean, there are several specials that Alison Steele did with Kiss. So this is the ultimate tribute to Alison, saying that we haven't forgotten about you, and you were instrumental in female disc jockeys, probably in the New York area.
Yeah, if she had still been around, you would have been humping her leg trying to get her to reread some of those lines that she'd been speaking over, studio tracks.
No,
can you just read this one again for me, please, without the background music?
I wouldn't have done that, because it wouldn't have been a true, artifact of the time. I would have done something different, and I would have had her, read something different and create something new. But this needed to be set in 1976 to make all the stuff make sense. I was on podcast Rock City last night, and one of the guys was talking about how even the titles, they felt like they were old and sunken in. And I was like, all I did is I just blurred them 2% to just kind of set them in there, because they look too good when I was doing all the title work. So all I did is I blurred them a little bit, and everyone's like, "Wow, they look like old titles." So maybe some of the fonts aren't exactly fonts that were around back then, but it looks like something that came out in '76. I even found the vintage NBC logo for the time. So that little logo you see is the NBC logo of the time.
And the commercials were a nice little Easter egg in there too.
Yeah, immediately when I knew that I was going to do a TV special, I knew that I wanted to include vintage commercials as a way to turn back the clock. I wasn't going to put like 5 or 10 minutes of commercials, just a couple little commercials baked in there, just to give you a little taste. And, so many people have been saying, "Oh man, I used to love going to Arthur Treacher's," or, "David Cassidy, that's so cool." Or some people didn't even know that Tom Snyder was a newscaster before he had his
That
his
was
talk
my
show.
favorite part. Him reading the news headlines,
Yeah.
just in his very kind of deadpan style. So
Yeah.
I thought that was I was like, wow, cool.
Yeah, once I found that, I was like, man, I gotta use this.
Oh, and the
I gotta use
explosions.
this.
Nice
Oh
explosions.
yeah. So I kind of went in, I sweetened some of the explosions to make them sound bigger, because if Kiss is coming to your home in mono, because it wasn't stereo at the time, they wanted to sweeten up those explosions. They did on Kiss Alive, they did on Alive too. So might as well do it here. I don't know if they fixed any explosions on the Inner Sanctum. I don't think they did at that point, because they were so big at that point. Anyway, it didn't really matter. But again, if people are like, "Oh man, you got to do Unmasked next," I was like, "No, I don't. There's already something that exists from Unmasked. I couldn't do the Inner Sanctum better than it's already been done." So, but yeah, I wanted to sweeten up some of those bombs a little bit, make them sound bigger, because Kiss is larger than life.
Yeah, so let's talk about some other stuff while we have you today. I just did get a mail call in, and I got the new Smoky. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera. Now, they've actually advertised this as pink vinyl. No, I'm joking. It's Smoky charcoal vinyl.
Looks like someone spilled Coca-Cola on it. Gene Simmons Moneybag Soda, they spilled it on there. That's
Moneybag Soda colored vinyl.
Moneybagsodas.com.
Which I'm very impressed with. I'm bummed out it came with a split sleeve again. But
Did it really?
Yeah. But you know what? It's just using the generic 2014 covers, so those are easy to pick up and replace. So there's no...
shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, there's no sticker on the back that even says limited edition on this one or anything. Just the 45th anniversary hype sticker. Anyone else gotten anything? I know the Funko Pops came out because I was at the mall at the weekend, and every time I saw one, my head would go. My wife would grab me by the ear.
No.
Ken, you're muted.
Oh, it was your fault. Anyway, the Gene Simmons one, I think I showed it before. I got that one Funko. I did get the double platinum. You showed it last week. So I'm not gonna show it again. It's the same thing as you got. But that finally arrived yesterday. The first box that it was in is double box, but the outside box was basically destroyed.
Yep.
But then the inner was the normal type of inner record type box and packaging.
It's a proper media mailer with crush zones, isn't it?
From Amazon, yeah, and it was fine, no problems. It was perfect shape. So happy about that.
So I got one other thing in today, and it's Italian magazine from
cool.
August is 81. Yeah, August 1981. I'm still in search of that freaking Elder ad from Italy, but that's got an interview with Paul Stanley that I'll be translating this weekend, so hopefully it's got something halfway interesting. It looks like it's mostly about the Attack of the Phantoms, which should be of interest to someone, if not me. But there's just a few recent additions. Lonnie, anything new in your world?
No, I'm waiting on my double platinum, and I pulled the trigger on the Best of Soul albums today. So
as you should have.
I should have. I was mad at myself for not doing it before. Like, you better just do it, or you're gonna be really pissed off at yourself, and you can't get it later.
Yeah, so. It's awesome. That was the Best of the Soul albums is my favorite. And I think I might have mentioned either on this show or another one that I had the German one. I bought it at like a flea market when I was like 10 or 11 years old. It had some damage on the front cover, but I didn't care. It was a Kiss record and it had a different logo. So it's like, oh, my Kiss. So I still have that record. So to be able to purchase a copy now in 2019, that just reminds me of having that record as a kid.
Yep, those were the imports. That and Killers were the two that were around commonly in the mid 80s. Even going back to when I was, getting started, I bought it was the Dutch version that was circulating mainly as PSI, Polygram Special Import. It usually came with a sticker on the back of the shrink for it. So very cool. And I did just manage to, from a really cool Dutch fan, get a set of the Austrian Metal Hammer singles.
Now, are those official?
They are indeed official, and Nothing to Lose from the first album on side A, Hell or Hallelujah on side B, colored vinyl using the originals on the center rings, 4 individual covers of the magazine using Tommy and Eric on those, so a little bit of a mismatch there, but that'll just set the chattering classes off.
But I think the reason for that was it was the first single and the last single. Album single.
Yeah, and it's got the makeup designs, which, come on, Tommy and Eric still wear Peter and Ace's makeup, so... are they going to go to all the effort of creating new center rings or just use the art that's already covered? I don't care. I had signed up for those through the vendor, and I must have missed the email, or because it was all in German and they weren't really handling English. So I missed it, but this Dutch fan had a set, and so I'm happy. Those should come in the next couple of weeks. So they've always
what I think is
with shows.
What I think is interesting about those, they were clearly trying to do the first and the last single, but I think if they wanted to go, true first and last single, they would have done Nothing to Lose, and then they would have done Samurai Son, which was the absolute last single.
No, Don't Touch My Ascot after that?
I don't think that was a single though.
Well, Samurai Son was 2015, right? Don't Touch My Ascot was 2014.
No, I think Don't Touch My Ascot came out after.
Did it?
I think
you might be right. But that's not a Kiss song. That was just a song used for.
It wasn't a single. It wasn't a single.
Correct. Samurai Son was a bona fide Kiss single. I like Samurai Son. I love that song.
I listened to it this week, so I'm not gonna say that. I was going through all my footage that I had of Memorial Clover Z, or whatever they are.
Memorial Clover Z, I think.
I want to get it all burned onto DVD because there was a lot of footage that was put out around the time, bonuses here and there, and it's just a moment in time. I'm not going to edit it very well. I'm just throwing it on a DVD and burning it, so if I ever do watch it, it's ready to go.
Rockin' Pod is back. The annual celebration of rock returns to Nashville. This convention brings together the best rock stars, music podcasters, vinyl and memorabilia vendors, and rock fans from all corners of the globe. Special guests include Michael Sweet of Stryper, Brian Forsyth of Kix, Jason Beeler of Saigon Kick, Eerie Vaughn of Danzig, and members of Exodus, Roxy Blue, Every Mother's Nightmare, Kick Tracy, and more. Music podcasts from all over North America will be recording on-site all weekend. Special pre-party featuring the rock and roll residency, The Talisman, 8-Ball, and Lipstick Generation on Friday night. Rockin' Pod Expo on Saturday. Join us at the Nashville Airport Marriott August 9th and 10th for Rockin' Pod. Podcast registration and tickets and VIP packages available now at rockinpod.com.
All right, let's head into some what ifs, because that's been one of the things that Kiss fans spend a lot of our time talking about on Facebook or on the FAQ or Reddit or elsewhere.
And it's a popular Marvel comic line. What if?
What if? So Ken, why don't you lead us in with one of your what ifs?
Yeah, well, I joked about Marcus Almighty saying that what if he liked the Destroyer, but I think the world would end if.
I think that's just stretching what if a little bit too far.
Yeah,
and that's also cruel. That's just really mean to even put Mark in that situation of ever thinking he'd have to say that.
I know. So one what if is pretty basic. I thought about some other ones, but the one I could have said, what if Gene and Paul never met? But that's nothing, that's whatever. But I thought, what if they didn't name the band Kiss and have that iconic logo that they, Ace designed? What if they did do or kept the Wicked Lester name, or went with one of these other.
Kind of proud of yourself.
Perfect. One of these other names that they were going for. Of course, they couldn't do the F word one. That one.
But there was Albatross. Albatross was another one.
Albatross was another one. Yeah. So So for instance, if they would have went with Albatross, would that have? Sometimes a name and a logo itself can attract or detract, from either buying something or even paying attention to it. Was it the right decision to go with Kiss? And did they sell more? Did they sell more, maybe records or not, versus another name? Would they have done better using another name than Kiss, or would it not matter, basically? In which it probably doesn't.
I think it would have mattered. I think the simplicity of the name was definitely worked in their favor. Certainly worked in their favor as far as design go, lighted logos go. They couldn't have a giant Albatross logo. They would take up. But I think
too many lights.
I think the simplicity of the name definitely worked to their advantage. But as you were explaining the scenario, it kind of reminded me of something that Nikki Sixx said in one of the Motley Crue Behind the Music. He said that if we have a name that's famous, then we're already famous. When they were trying to name the band, Christmas or whatever they were looking for at the time. Mm-hmm. So I think it would have made a difference. But just remember too, a lot of people were turned off by the image. So I also think that, name aside, they still would have caught the same amount of resistance from the general public and certainly radio personalities. But I think the simplicity of the name worked to their advantage.
Lonnie.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I agree with Andrew that the simplicity of the name, and that everybody knows what a Kiss is, and it's not just in America, but but globally, everyone knows, everybody's familiar with the term, and it really worked to their advantage, with not only becoming popular in the United States but across the globe as well. And I think having a bad name for a band does not work in favor of the band. We've seen that in the past. The name really goes a long way. That it's not just something to overlook. So would they have experienced the same amount of success? Maybe, because good songs are good songs, and a good show is a good show. Whether if they have a poor name for the band, but they still put on the show that they did in 74, 75, word's going to travel. Hey, you got to see this band no matter what they're called, and no matter, and if they have the same songs. So it's an interesting thought, but I think that, I would still like to think they would have the same amount of success with a different name.
Yeah, I think Albatross is difficult, though at least you have the two S's that Ace could have done.
Sure.
But, having a giant lighted albatross behind you, I think the simplicity of the name was part of it with the image. What's that band that's Kiss, man. Nice. Who forgets the word right. Kiss? It'd be, hey, did you see that? What was that band? Pelican. No, the Eagles. No, Albatross. Lester. Yeah. Nevermore. You're not going to remember Albatross, and who wants to be the albatross in the room? So it doesn't have all those sorts of connotations that Kiss, like they all have always said in their revisionist history, the romantic kiss, the kiss of death, and all of that. So I think the image is what people remembered, but having an easy, simple name made it all a memorable package. That they were outrageous, that they were, Thunder Rock, Albatross, Thunder Rock.
If they would have used Wicked Lester, people saying, well, which one is
Who's Lester? Which one's Lester?
Who's Lester? It's got like Jethro Tull, right?
Yeah, which one is Jethro Tull?
Exactly.
Which one's Pink?
Exactly.
Which one is Hootie? Which one is, because you
Pink.
guys are the Blowfish. Which one is Hootie?
Well, they all blow.
Hey, I'll tell you a funny, really quick Hootie and the Blowfish story that relates to Kiss, because Kiss presented the award to Hootie and the Blowfish in
right.
that was the Grammys, right? 96.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching that clip. I was watching that clip one night, and I still lived in Myrtle Beach at the time, working at the Kiss Coffee House. And I'm there at work the next day, and I'm making coffee, looking at this guy. I go, where do I know this guy from? It's like, I've seen him before. Then he walks up. I go, dude, you're from Hootie and the Blowfish. And he goes, yep. And it was the drummer from Hootie and the Blowfish.
The drummer.
Who recognizes the drummer from Hootie and the Blowfish?
I did, because they all were up on stage, or it was like excuse me, it was the guitar player. It wasn't the drummer. It was the guitar player.
Who knows anyone from Hootie and the Blowfish?
But I was like looking at him, and I was looking at him, and I was like, wait, you're from Hootie and the Blowfish. And he was. So this was cool. He was cool.
Nice. All right, Lonnie, why don't we do one of your what ifs?
Mine is, what if Bob Ezrin had been available to produce Psycho Circus?
Ooh.
So we can go into many different directions on that. And that, and what would the album sound like? What song, what songs from those sessions that we know about wind up on the album? What songs maybe don't wind up on the album? And do we get rid of the hideous cover? And does the band, because Ezrin produced it, experience more success, thus not playing the farewell card so soon after the release of Psycho Circus?
And what effect would it have on Mark Anthony Kaye?
Oh, man.
Would Mark Anthony Kaye have just as much hatred for Psycho Circus?
Hate it even more. Right. Yeah.
Hate it even more.
See, there's a lot of different directions you can go. And it just depends on what your thoughts are. Mm-hmm. Had Ezrin produced it, what would have been the after effects?
Here's my thoughts on this. My thoughts, I think you would have had a more cohesive album. Mm-hmm. I Finally Found My Way to You would not have been on there, because Ezrin would have saw it as them trying to capitalize on Beth again, and knowing that AM radio and moms were not listening to Kiss in 1998, but AM radio loved Beth in 76. That's why Beth worked. So I think that would have went, and I think Body and Soul would have been on there instead of Raise Your Glasses. I think maybe some of the Gene material would have been more refined, but I still think the album would have tanked, because that type of music wasn't selling like hotcakes. The tour may have done better because they may have gotten along a little bit better. But let's get real here. Ace was doing a lot of drugs. Peter was just nonstop bitching. Gigi was back in the fold. I think maybe they would have sold a little more albums, and I think maybe the tour may have gone a little longer, but I think certainly that farewell card would have been played after that. I think for sure.
Oh God, I think there would have been a better selection of songs. I don't think Within would have been on there.
I like that song,
and that's for
doesn't fit.
It does not fit. I mean, I think Bob would have done a better job, especially with Gene's material, knocking it into better shape. I don't think Ace and Peter would have been in any better circumstances because of the problems that were going on in the background for the recording of the album. Were just simply had nothing to do with the producer. They were a matter of business coming off a vastly successful tour, and business is business, and that's fine. So Ezrin would have shown no reticence to get in, studio players to fulfill those roles. But I think the album would have had a better palette of sound than kind of being such a mismatch either works, of what was just kind of cobbled together. If you look at the song lists of Bruce Fairbairn's A, B, and C list, and now that the vault's out, you get to hear a lot of those other things that were considered. I mean, I Turned to Stone and whatnot. I think Bob could have done something with a lot of those song ideas, and that's always been Gene's strength, that he does have some good ideas, not necessarily for 3.5 minutes throughout the whole song. And you have to bring them together, and you have to have that person. So I just think that Bob himself would have been the wrong choice to do a reunion album, because it should have been Kramer, because I think that would have at least gotten Ace maybe through the business side of the equation faster, and then you would have had 3 of the 4, and I think then Peter would have come along as well. I can't remember if they were both still managed by Suet at that time.
I think they were, but what was Ace saying at that time? Y'all should be thankful. We're like, why? Because if I didn't quit the band, I would never come back and be successful with you guys again. Wait, what? That's like, he actually said that they should be thankful that he quit the band because that gave him the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, you're going to have to
Ace
hold that
gentlemen.
thought, because we're going to have to talk a little bit about Ace as well, and the latest
Okay.
bit of press to come through on it. Ken, I mean, what's your take on Ezrin?
I think it would have been better sounding album. Whether they made it sound like Revenge a little bit, production wise, would have been better, a little heavier. I do think Bob Ezrin would have helped, tweak the songs, pick different songs, tweak the songs, add something here and there, change lyrics to fit the theme of the Psycho Circus if they're going for some kind of concept album to make it all fit. And I also think he would have been able to get Ace and Peter both in there, because Fairbairn said that they couldn't play. Well, I think Bob Ezrin would have kicked them in the shape again. I mean, maybe it would have been a little harder this time, since there's a lot more drugs that have happened in between and other stuff that's gone on. But I think we would have had the 4 of them playing on that album. Now, having said that, we know Bob Ezrin has used other players, but I don't think it would have been as extreme as what we got on Psycho Circus. So I do think it would have been a better album. Would it sell more? No, because I think what the first week of release is, it's just all Kiss fans, Kiss diehards buying that album. Maybe get some other people, fair weather, that say, "Oh, Kiss is popular, I'm going to go ahead and buy their album." But it's not going to make much of a difference as far as sales wise.
I always get the feeling that the people who scratched their itch by going and seeing the band on the reunion tour would have been interested no matter what, because they'd gone back in time for that moment, had that moment, and moved back into their current lane.
Whatever.
Yeah,
but do you think that Do you think that maybe some of those Fairweather fans would have bought the record if it came out sooner? Because you had a huge period of inactivity of the band, over a year of inactivity.
Sure. It should have came out about 6 months or to a year.
Should have happened before the tour started.
They should have. No, I don't agree with. I don't agree with that. But I think maybe they should have been demoing. They should have been working on it while they were on the road. And the tour ended in July of '97. I think if this album had come out in January of '98, I think it would have been a bigger success. My opinion.
I don't think it would have. I think people would have moved on regardless, because I really think they were going back for that one moment. And maybe it would have sold a few more. Maybe a few people would have hung on. Let's say it ends in July and they managed to put out a single in September. Just one, first recording, one song, just to keep the kind of creative things. Because you didn't get any of that. Instead, you got the stupid comic books and all the merchandising started to build up. And that turned me off at the time. Because that was what I was always scared of when the reunion happened. I'm like, this is going to kill the band as an active musical entity with any creativity, because they're not going to go back and make anything that stands up to the past. It's all going to be overdoing the merchandise. And it was the merchandise that scaled up rather than the music. And especially after You Wanted the Best came out, which was the abomination of music and what could have been cool, I was dreading what was coming next musically. So I don't think it would have. I think it would have helped, because they didn't start recording until I think mid-January. January
to April they recorded that.
Yeah, so that was way too long. And then from April to September or August,
September 22nd.
August is when it leaked on the Rat. So way
95.9 the Rat.
Way too long, way too much delay, and then I don't think they would have done a 3D gimmick with Ezrin. I think he would have had a much more, like Destroyer, the original Destroyer tour. I think if he had produced it, they would have gone back to a bigger kind of new stage show, like they've finally done with The End of the Road, to completely re-envisaging it without bringing in unicycles and tightrope walkers and fire breathers and clowns.
Listen, I think they should have done exactly what Motley Crue did on the Carnival of Sins tour. Yes, they had some, circus people in there, but I mean, they knocked it out of the park.
The whole stage was the Carnival, not just
not
just a curtain in the front.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park with that with that gimmick, and that tour was awesome. That should have been what Kiss did.
What say, Lonnie?
I think we'd hold the album in much higher regard than we do today. Because a lot of people think about Psycho Circus and they just think, oh, that album's, I can't even listen to it. It's just trash.
I love it.
Well, you are in the minority though, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people just despise that album. I think most Kiss fans would hold it in much higher regard had Ezrin came in there and had his thumbprint on it. And I think I'd like to think that, maybe, like Ken said, maybe the other members of the band get more involved. Maybe it does. I know Ace was really messed up at the time of the recording of that, but maybe having Ezrin involved could have been something that would motivate him to put his best foot forward and clean up his act a little bit during the time, and instead of having the call-in session musicians, and we know Ezrin isn't scared to call in session musicians. I mean, he did it on Destroyer, for crying out loud. So
and Revenge.
True.
So it's not beyond the possibilities. It probably still would have happened, but maybe not to the extent, and maybe we would have wound up with more than just one song where all four are actually playing on the album. I'd like to think that if that would have happened, the band's getting along better, maybe they don't play the farewell card as quickly as they did in 2000, but that's probably wishful thinking on my part.
It was farewell to Ace and Peter. That's what it was.
Pardon the hell out of me.
After the fact.
Farewell to Ace and Peter.
My farewell tour T-shirts do not say farewell to Ace and Peter on the back of them.
You're correct.
That's true. Farewell to Kiss.
And speaking of the farewell tour, the recording of today's episode, 19 years ago is when I saw the farewell tour, East Rutherford, New Jersey, June 27th, 2000. They played there 2 nights. I didn't go to the second night, but I went to the first night. They were awesome. They were awesome.
That's the Last Kiss DVD, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a combination of both nights. I think the crowd shots are from Atlanta, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. I mean, that's another one that should be kind of edited, because I'm not a big fan of what they did. I like the version from Japan.
Yes.
A bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And that should have had a standalone release as well. Again, all these boats that the band missed, it's like they're catching up now that all this vinyl's being dumped on us at such a fast clip, and surely more is to come, and who knows what else in kind of these realms of unreleased material. And that Last Kiss, I mean, it was fun at the time. A pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I've still got a poster in my hall from that. It was
designed by Spiro.
It was it was exciting times, and that poster is really cool, actually. So keep me.
Yeah, I remember thinking that I couldn't believe that the show that I was at was going to be used for that pay-per-view. So I was really, really excited to get it. It's a shame that the full show it's in widescreen, but it's very dark. The Japanese one is still in, because it was shot in widescreen at the time, which was unheard of at the time in the year 2000.
Oh yeah.
But the Japanese one is superb in quality, superb in sound, and that's the one that you got to get if you're trying to track something down. So there's the Japanese pay-per-view, there's the US pay-per-view, and I think the US pay-per-view and the version on Kissology Volume 3 are identical. And there's the full show. Yeah. That unfortunately is a little bit dark, but the awesome show, awesome times, and yes, I know it's revisionist history, but I really do think Gene and Paul were just trying to say farewell to Ace and Peter, and they were just trying to pull the wool over ours. I don't believe it for a second that they thought it was the end.
Okay, so what if 5-year contracts had not been signed? What if it was longer than that? Because it was a 5-year contract. In 1996, they signed up for 5 years. They ran that cycle through to the expiration of Peter's contract. Peter's lawyers rightfully decided to renegotiate on whatever grounds that they would then have had the experience of 5 years of interaction with Gene and Paul as paymasters in business. So it's hardly surprising that there was negotiation going on, and then it's hardly surprising that Gene and Paul basically walked away from him. But if the contract had been for a longer period or an open period, do you think it would have had a different effect on what actually happened with the farewell tour? Do you think no matter what, after a few years, these guys would have been sick to death of each other, and Ace and Peter would have been kicked out, either together or separately soon?
I think, if they had signed a 10-year contract, we'd be looking for Jimmy Hoffa's body, Peter Criss, and Ace Frehley's body. I mean, it was clear. I mean, you read all the books, and I'm not talking about, the text that Gene or Paul wrote. I'm talking about other people that were around the band at the time going, man, I have no idea how you're dealing with these two idiots. You have Peter who's saying, I'm only getting paid, X amount of dollars. Peter, you signed that contract. You knew what you were making, and now you're acting like we're trying to, but you signed it. So I don't understand. It's clear that a lot of the people, Gene and Paul included, listened to the wrong parties. Maybe they should have held them on a tighter leash. Maybe they should have gave them more money. Maybe they should have given them less money. I mean, who knows? There's so many what ifs. What if they were brought back in as equal partners? Would they have, stomped away in a fit, wanting a cut of the merchandise every night like Ace was getting? I don't know. It just seems to me that those guys are just water and vinegar. They really are.
And I've never read the contract because I don't know if they circulate, but I certainly have not seen them. But I think that there should have been more structure to the contract in 1996, saying that you will be doing such and such, because I can understand Peter or Ace getting pissed off at the amount of money that was generated that they signed on when Gene and Paul were taking all the risk. So they signed on at what may have been a low ball number, that this is the very best that we may do. So this is our bottom offer to you. Take it or leave it. You want to be a part of it? Make $5 million or whatever. I have no idea what the money is, by the way. Nor do I want to know. And then you go on a tour that generates in 1996 43 million or 45, whatever it was. Then that's just 1996, and then they had to run through 1997. So I can totally understand Ace and Peter sitting back and saying, "Whoa, Sparky, now, yeah, you're making a lot of money. I know we signed a contract. However,
You're making a lot of money because we're back in the band.
yeah,
Should have changed it to percentages instead of.
They should have changed it to. They should have changed it to.
Or be some kind of incentive laced or something like that. Like you hear about with athletes and that. If you play X amount of games, you get this kind of bonus structure. Or maybe and I'm not a lawyer, making contracts or anything, but maybe if the band sells out X amount of dates, well, you get this bonus or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that would have held things together better.
That may have worked, but me just speaking on an ignorant standpoint on this, I just think that group of people, George Stewart included, Ace Peter, they were so foolish at the time that I don't think they would have ever have thought that constructively to do that. No. I think that they were pig-headed in the assumption that they wanted this, they wanted our way, or we're going to walk. And maybe Gene and Paul bowed to them. I mean, like I said, no one knows what actually happened, but it's clear that these two groups of people never saw eye to eye. So who knows what changing that could have done. I mean, I definitely understand that they were brought in at a low dollar figure, then they're making all this money. But Gene and Paul say, hey, this was a success because we told you what to do. And now you have Ace and Peter going, well, it's a success because of us. And Gene and Paul go, no, it's a success because I told you what to do. So it's we don't know what actually went on. What we do know is that those two groups of people were difficult to work together. That's what we do know.
Yeah, and you do get a little bit of seasoning out of some of the autobiographies about what did happen, but you don't get all four perspectives. And again, there's always more to business than as may be the case. But I think structure would have helped.
I agree.
That if they had said we're going to do the tour until then we're going to do an EP or get a single out, then we're doing an album, and they would have had the monetary lines all the way along. If you do not do this, there are penalties.
Show plate.
Yeah, athletes and peds, they get financial penalties. Well, same for musicians with performance enhancing substances.
Wasn't there a story that I read that Ace wanted to quit on the eve of the K-Rock Weenie Roast when he saw the 4 Spin magazine covers? He thought it was stupid and wanted to get out of there. Didn't I read that somewhere?
I've never heard that one.
I don't recall that.
Because I thought that flight that Ace missed was Ace saying, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. That's what I thought I read that somewhere. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
I mean, Ace missing a flight is just not that unusual.
Yeah. In other news, water is wet.
Yeah, so my what if is just going to be a quick one, and then I want to talk about Ace and the latest article for Wilkes-Barre, the show coming up. And that is, what if Peter Criss was still in the band for Unmasked? Which song or songs from Out of Control
Oh, God.
do you think would have ended, what if Peter was still there? Do you think Kiss could have done justice to on Unmasked? And all of you are probably trying to think of one song title from Out of Control right now.
Trying to remember any
other
songs
than
from
Out of Control, which,
That's the only one. There you go. We're done.
Yeah, I think it would have had something like Words. Well, it would have been one of the sappy ones that would have been kissified somewhat because, Could It Be Love, maybe? One of the outtakes would actually have worked.
No, they would have redone.
There's Nothing Better. I could see them doing There's Nothing Better.
Hey,
I love that. I'm sorry, I love that album. I always have. From the day I found a cassette copy in Singapore, I have listened to that a lot. I've listened to it more than his 78 solo album. Well, that's not exactly a stretch. But, all right, Ken, what do you think would work? And you're on mute. So right now we're
again.
The sounds of silence will work.
Okay. The sound of Simon and Garfunkel. It's obviously not going to be, I don't think, by myself.
Probably not.
But
because that's already on there. It's called Shandy, and it's Paul by himself.
Maybe I Found Love.
That's a good pick. I like that.
I mean, that one sticks out. I kind of remember that one. Out of Control, maybe. Not You Better Run, because Pat Benatar, well, she had it like at around the same time, right?
Yep.
Or just a bit earlier, and she made a hit out of it anyway. So, yeah, I'll say I Found Love. Maybe they would use that song.
All right, let's go to Lonnie.
I'm saying There's Nothing Better. I could see them doing that. There's Nothing Better. It's kind of poppy, and it kind of sounds like it could sync up with the other songs on Unmasked. Kind of catchy. So that's my pick. I could totally see that ending up on Unmasked and getting the Vinny Poncia treatment.
Yeah, it already had the Vinny Poncia treatment.
Obviously, yeah,
because he'd recorded the demo, and it was one. It was one of the 4 songs that Peter submitted for Dynasty, so I think that would probably be the most logical pick, because it's also got a similar sort of vibe to it that Dirty Living had. A little bit dancey, a little bit softcore, disco, very AOR-ish as well.
Softcore,
so
something else.
Yeah. All right, Andrew. You figured out a song?
He's still thinking.
Well, it's the only one I know is Out of Control. I don't even remember any of the other songs on that record. It's been at least 10 years since I played it. At least I have it somewhere. Yeah, it's probably Out of Control, or maybe My Life. I don't know. I mean, it's just, but like I still remember the chorus of Out of Control, so I think that could have been Kissified.
And that was that was another one of the.
That was another demo.
So it's. Again, logically, I think most likely it would have been There's Nothing Better or Out of Control. They probably would have gone with There's Nothing Better, because now we've got 7-year-olds. We can't be out of control, especially when we're unmasking. We have to be in. Gene and Paul, we have to be in control. No out of control.
Well, he would have wrote sooner. Bad People Go to Hell, whatever that stupid song is.
I love that song, and I'm looking forward to that vinyl coming out. The 2LP, the purple vinyl reissue of Chris Cat number 1. And I'm also hoping Universal gets around to reissuing both of Peter's albums on colored vinyl. But
they burned in the fire. That's actually, they were trying to use it for kindling, and the fire got out of control. So they were trying to burn that one. Yeah,
that's just evil. I mean, I'm really curious to find out whether any Kiss stuff was impacted. Now that we're finding out about Bryan Adams, Sheryl Crow,
it's terrible.
Can't remember some of the other people who have been confirmed to have lost their whole catalogs.
There was tons.
Demos, alternate takes, unreleased recordings. These are the masters. These are not mixed downs and safety copies, which will be poor analogs, because those often turn up in vaults elsewhere around the world as they are sent out to other countries. But I mean, it really is just an egregious treatment of raw material.
Well, it makes you wonder how well they did the vinyl remasters for Kiss. I mean, they turned out so well, so I'm kind of thinking that they did have some kind of good tape source, assuming that they did it from an analog tape.
It looked like 1/4-inch mixdowns from the reel that was shown on the Twitter feed of one of the engineers who was doing the transfer. It showed the transfer hardware at 192 was the input bit rate that they were using, and they had the reel, which was just a copy. It wasn't the original masters, multi-tracks. It was maybe the mixdown master because it had
a good copy.
Oh yeah, it's the one that's basically used to make records, but you want to have the ones with all the, I've got a 2-inch reel behind me of Sean Delaney's, and when you go into all 16 tracks on there, you find all sorts of shit recorded. I mean, it's just him noodling around in the studio on a piano with Richard T. Bear doing an unreleased song. But there's different versions. There's, different, obviously, tracks being recorded to multi-track it. And what's going to be on, like, a Kiss tape? I mean, those are the ones that we talk about.
Yeah.
But were they on the East Coast? Because we heard a certain catalog consultant did talk about Kiss's catalog and how he had seen, Universal Wholesale shoveling them into dumpsters, after they transferred them in the 90s. So, it's not just a fire in 2018 or whenever it happened. You know, it's been a treatment of master raw material that's been disgraceful for many years, but that's always been the case. They're the record label, and once you've recorded your stuff and signed it over to them, they own it. Until you want to do a deluxe edition. All right, Ace Frehley, last thing before we wrap up in 5 minutes. What do you think? Is he still trying? He hasn't talked to Gene, but he talked to Paul recently. He's not sure. He'd still be willing to join them on stage, but Tommy would have to go backstage. So you could have Skinny Ace and Not So Skinny Ace in makeup. What do you, Andrew?
Please no. Please no. You know, listen, that band makes Ace sound awesome. I don't know if Ace could sound as full as Tommy Thayer sounds. Tommy Thayer's an accomplished musician, whether you like it or not. Ace there are just things that have just happened in Ace's life that he is just not what he used to be. So please don't. Please no.
Please don't ruin it all.
Please no.
I think the desperation that came across in the interview, and this was Alan Stout, K. Stout. I don't remember the name of the site off the top of my head, so I'll have to try and find it before we do wrap so I can tell you where to go read this. But
didn't you see there was a video of Ace before he did the interview? Because this guy's like, Ace, what are you doing? Yeah, putting the gloves back on. Just making it back on now. They're back on now, guys. Now we can talk.
My hands are cold. Gloves. But now he's basically throwing Rachel under the bus. Oh, I didn't see nothing.
Yeah, he's basically saying that she's the one that did that, which we all kind of knew.
Oh, everyone knew that.
Yeah.
Saw nothing. Nothing.
I saw nothing.
Ace?
Putting the gloves back on. They're on now.
Yeah, I read the interview.
They don't
today.
fit. You must be quiet.
That's funny. But it's just another attempt. He still wanted to get back in. It's not going to happen. The only way anything's going to happen is going to be the very, very last show, which they say, which is going to be in New York. Didn't I read something? They already know where they're going to play in New York, but we don't know. But they're going to play somewhere. People assume Madison Square Garden, but it could be somewhere else.
But we do know it will be somewhere.
It will be somewhere.
It will hopefully be somewhere.
And you know what? Real quick, going back to that Psycho Circus subject, one thing I forgot to mention is Bob Ezrin would have used "It's My Life" on that album.
Yes, I was thinking that too.
That's great. That's an excellent point.
But anyway,
I mean this. You have me going, Ace, please no, but then you have Ace's band going, Ace, no, please don't. We already, our one boss is, already don't, no, please, no, we need a paycheck. His poor band.
I want those guys to do the 78 solo album properly in a theater. Live DVD from Ace. It's about time he did that. So put the gloves back on. Buckle down like nothing's ever going to happen, Ace. Keep going with your origins too. And again, it was musiconthemenu.blogspot.com. Alan K. Stout. You can find the link on the FAQ message board in the general forum where you don't need to be a member to read. You can lurk, and it's the topic is Ace open up to playing with Tommy. I'm sorry, that doesn't make much sense, but that's how the person wrote it. The interview,
just change the description. Ace put the gloves back on.
Yeah, well, Alan did a great job with the interview, and he also got some of the titles of songs that he's going to be covering on Origins 2, and "Good Times, Bad Times" by Led Zeppelin, "Yawn," another Zeppelin song.
He's doing a Stone song too, right?
Jumping Jack Flash with Leader Ford.
Leader Ford.
Okay. And 30 Days in the Hole, which is Humble Pie, the mighty Steve Marriott, but with Robin Zander on vocals on that. So that one interests me, but I'm like, how's that an Origins? It's from 1972 when you were already kind of defined your style and joined Kiss, at least December 72. I really had hoped he'd stay in the 60s with stuff. Now, as someone else mentioned today, it's just become a cover album, not really Origins, which is a shame. But there you go. Maybe he'll do it justice. Not a big fan of that song, but there you go. So that's 3 of the songs. I guess we'll find out more. I'm hoping that the Highway Star is there, or Space Trucking, whichever the Deep Purple songs.
I would really enjoy Space Trucking.
Yes.
He did cut one for the last Origins album, which was not used, I believe. And I want that. And, that's the kind of stuff I would rather hear. Purple, some of the more obscure stuff from the 60s that he played in his club bands at the Rustic Pub and whatever.
What Kiss songs is he going to cover?
He's going to be...
You know he's gonna.
Will.
Lick It Up.
Oh, please no.
I hope not.
No.
Please no.
Maybe because Kiss never did it, won't get fooled again.
Yeah, I could see that.
I can see
The Who, yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Somehow I don't see Paul doing that in Soul Station, but there's some Kiss songs I would love him to do, and I'd basically like him to stick to Killers, Creatures, and maybe The Elder. Reading Darklight.
I wouldn't mind him doing something like even Getaway, where
Darklight
Getaway would be good. He can do his own.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he said, how Bob took away all my solos. Well, re-record it, Ace, and put the solos back in. All right, Curly?
I forgot them. I forgot the solos. I forgot them.
Then go into your garage and get the multi-tracks out. And, there we go. All right, so let's leave it there today. What are some of the what-ifs that you want to talk about? Because we're always willing to take ideas for another show topic. Chime in wherever you listen to us on what you think of the last Kiss pay-per-view. Andrew's Kiss at Midnight movie.
Stream Kiss at Midnight, yo.
Yeah, available on YouTube and Vimeo.
Yeah, because I'm kicking names and taking asses.
Okay, put the gloves back on. Yeah.
I'm taking the gloves off.
All right, guys. So from Andrew, from Lonnie, from Ken and myself, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Woo.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.